Welcome to the grimdark world of Warhammer 40,000, and congratulations on getting your hands on the box game Space Marine 2 Recruit Edition. This is a great entry point into the war-torn darkness of the far future and contains everything you need to get started. I'm going to start with Titus. He once defeated the Orc Green Tide and is now ready to fight the endless Tyranid swarm. But first, we need him looking awesome. We're going to start by undercoating Titus. If you haven't heard of undercoating before, don't panic, I'll be taking you through it. An undercoat is when we apply paint to the whole model. This acts as a nice foundation for all the other paints to stick to. We'll be applying the undercoat with a brush using Macragge Blue, as that's what comes in the box. Now, it's normal for the paint to settle and separate over time. For this reason, it's good to get into the habit of giving your paint pots a good shake before you use them. A good way to do this is to place your thumb or finger over the lid and give it a quick shake. This way, we'll be sure that the lid won't open while we're shaking. Next, crack open the paint pot and rest the lid on the tab at the back. This will keep the paint pot open. We can now check to see if we've shaken the paint thoroughly enough. We're looking for a smooth consistency like this. Now our Macragge Blue is ready. Load some paint onto your brush using the helpful little reservoir inside the lid. Be careful not to let the paint go too far up your brush. We actually want to avoid getting paint onto this metal part, also known as the ferrule. Getting paint onto this area may damage the brush as the paint dries. Being careful here ensures our brush stays healthy for longer. Now you can apply this straight from the pot onto your model like this, or you can add a small amount of water for some extra control. However you do it is up to you, but if we do add water, we may have to add an extra layer of paint or two. Whatever you decide, I'd recommend always placing the paint onto your palette first so you can control how much you have on your brush. We don't want to apply too much paint at once. Now you may see that the paint isn't covering right away, and that some of the plastic is still showing underneath. That's completely normal, don't worry. What we're going to do is apply the paint in 2 or 3 layers and build up that solid colour slowly. This simply involves painting all over the model, leaving it to dry, and then painting another layer on top. You'll be able to see that the colour gets more and more solid and smooth with each new coat that we add. We finished applying the undercoat and now it's time to start adding our other colours. The first of these is going to be Abaddon Black. It's completely up to you which areas you select, but if you're struggling to choose which areas to paint black, the handbook inside the box can provide plenty of ideas and inspiration. For my Titus, I'll be painting the weapons, holster, undersuit, as well as any pouches on the model. Just like with the last stage, you may need several layers of paint here. Try to be careful when painting near the armour, as we want to avoid getting any black onto that Macragge Blue. And don't panic if you do make any mistakes. Just go back with some thinned down Macragge Blue, and when you're done, neaten up any mistakes. You could even wait until you've added all your other colours and clean up all of your mishaps at the end if you'd prefer. Both Macragge Blue and Abaddon Black are base paints. Base paints are thicker than most and give us a solid foundation for the rest of our colours. If you want to learn more about base paints, once again, we have a great video in our Painting Essentials playlist all about them. Now that we've applied all the Abaddon Black and cleaned up any mistakes, it's time to move on to Balthazar Gold. Balthazar Gold is a metallic paint, meaning it's shiny and can be used to represent metal areas on a miniature. I'll be painting Balthazar Gold onto the shoulder pad trim, chest eagle, wrist chain, gun barrel, as well as some other smaller details. If you're struggling to decide what to paint with Balthazar Gold, remember you can always refer to the handbook for some help. And don't forget, if you're looking for further control, you can mix in a little water, although this will mean you have to add an extra layer or two to your model. Once you've finished with Balthazar Gold or any metallic paint, it's always a good idea to change your paint water. Sometimes metallic flakes get left inside the water, and we don't want them sneaking their way into our other colours. Now I'll be using Naggaroth Night to paint any of the wax seals on Titus. These are quite small details, so just be as careful as you can and take your time. If you do make any mistakes, don't worry, we can always go back with our other paints and neaten them up if we need to. The last step for Titus is to paint Wraithbone onto all the parchment, cloth and skulls. Wraithbone is quite a thin paint, so you may have to apply more coats than normal. Just remember, you can thin your paint down if you think you need to. And just like that, Titus is ready for battle. He's ready to launch himself into the endless waves of termagants and tear through them limb by... Titus may be ready, but the Tyranids certainly aren't. Now it's time to paint the rest of our miniatures from the box. It's time to paint the Tyranids. For the first paint on our Tyranids, we're going to be undercoating them with Wraithbone, painting it all over each miniature. We'll be doing this using the exact same method we used for Titus, using the included starter brush and Wraithbone paint pot. This box includes Termagaunts and a Ripper Swarm. The steps of both models are the same, but you can choose to paint them differently if you like. I finished applying the undercoat to our Tyranids. It took an extra layer than the Macragge Blue, but it still looks great. The next step is to apply Naggaroth Night to all the carapace on our Tyranids. There's quite a lot of carapace areas on these models, so just remember to take your time and be as careful as you can when painting near that skin. Now, there's a whole squad of Termagants in this box, and painting all of them individually can be quite daunting. We can instead paint them as a group to make it much easier. This is called batch painting. Batch painting is super simple. Once we finish painting one colour on a model, we then repeat that step on all our other models before moving on to the next colour. This makes getting models ready for the gaming table much quicker, as we're never waiting for paint to dry. How many models you paint in a batch is completely up to you. You could tackle 5 at a time, or if you're feeling really adventurous, you could even tackle all 10 and the Ripper Swarm in one sitting. Next, we'll be using Abaddon Black to paint in all the sharper areas of our Tyranids. This includes all the claws, gun carapace, and hooves. Take your time and work your way around each model, and don't worry if you make any mistakes. We can always go back and neaten them up. Once you've painted all the areas that you'd like to be black, you once again have the option of neatening up the base with Abaddon Black if you'd like. And there we are. Our Tyranids are now complete and they're hungry for a particular Ultramarine Lieutenant. All the models from the Space Marine 2 Recruit Edition are now looking awesome and are ready to take to the gaming table. However, if you're interested in making your models look even cooler, or just have some spare time in between games, there are a couple of super easy extra steps that we can do using just 2 extra paints that will make your models look incredible. One super easy thing we can do to our models is base them. Basing models is super easy and makes them look great. We'll be using a texture paint for this called Astrogranite. Texture paints are thick and lumpy. They're used to apply texture to bases, making them look like a real battlefield. I've chosen Astrogranite to match the rocky terrain on Titus's base, but you can choose a different texture paint if you'd like. To apply the texture paint to each base, I'm going to be using this texture tool. This is the best tool for applying texture paint. It's equipped with 2 scoops either side, a large one for large areas, and a small one for small areas. If you don't have a texture tool, don't worry, you can use anything you like. A coffee stirrer works great, or even an old toothbrush will do the trick. All we want to do is get the texture paint straight from the pot and onto the model's base. Take your time carefully applying the texture paint over the whole base, taking extra care near the model's feet. Texture paint does take much longer to dry than other paints. It will take around an hour to fully dry. While we wait for our bases to dry, we can have a read of our handbook. If you're interested, you can read about the lore and the backstory, or even start going through the rules of the game and teach yourself how to play your first mission on the gaming table. The texture on our bases has fully dried, and now it looks like our models are actually on a real battlefield. But there's one more super easy step that we can take to make our models look fantastic. And that step is going to be to shade our miniatures. Shade paints are super runny paints that are designed to flow into the recesses on our models, define them, and add shade to them. Applying a shade paint all over a miniature can help to bring all the colours together. To shade my models, I'll be using Nuln Oil. Take it straight from the pot and start applying it over the whole model and its base. If you notice a large amount of Nuln Oil collecting together in one area, known as pooling, dry off your brush and soak up the excess. You'll only need 1 coat of this, and once again, it will take a full hour to dry. As you can see, those 2 quick steps have made our miniatures look extra awesome. If they were ready for battle before, then they're ready for war now. So, who will win? The courageous Ultramarine Lieutenant Titus, or the skittering Tyranid Swarm? Get your models on the gaming table, roll some dice, and find out. And for more tutorials, tips, and tricks, you can check out the other videos on the Warhammer YouTube channel. Or you can head to a Warhammer store, where our amazing staff are always happy to help. Thanks for watching, see you next time. Bye-bye!